Hey guys, it's Triggerfish here, and today we're going to be looking at some of Koneko's Diva play. Now, all of these games came from a weekend tournament where I want to keep in mind to everybody that the average SR is literally 3 times higher than what Koneko's SR is. And she still managed to walk out of it with tournament MVP. So, a lot of great stuff from Koneko. A lot of great habits that I've already seen develop in your playstyle, which are really good, and I think will help you succeed in climbing the ranks. But two of the main topics today that I want to be focusing on are our Diva's effective range and what it actually means to make space as a tank. Like, what is your role as a tank player? We in Overwatch, everyone talks about making space and all this kind of stuff to do with space, but what does it actually mean? Does anyone actually know what it means? And today, hopefully, I can clarify that a little bit. So, how Overwatch works essentially is tanks make the space and control the map. DPS are what take advantage of that and essentially carry the game. And then your supports help you, or are there to help. So if we think of it like a car, the tanks are essentially the engine. Without an engine, there's no car. The DPS are the car itself. It's flashy. It gets most of the credit, and then the supports are the oil and the gas, that's like the fluids that are actually in the engine that help it run smoothly. So that's kind of how Overwatch works. So we're just going to take a look and see what it looks like when we're doing a really good job as tanks. This was one of the maps that we won, and we're just going to take a look at our DPS and see what doing a good job as a tank means for your DPS. So by the tanks holding the high ground and the cart in a favorable position, it means that the enemy team can't get onto our DPS, and our DPS have a free time shooting down range. So you can see that there's no pressure on our soldier right now, and he's putting in a ton of damage into the tanks, into the Pharah, and we're making his life really easy. And this is essentially what wins games, is your DPS doing damage, right? So you can see that because the Pharah's so focused on the tanks, on cart, she can't look at the DPS duel, which means that she loses. And now our soldier just he's taken 18 damage he took 18 damage this entire time. It's been a minute into the game, and that's how much he's taken, right? So this is us doing a really good job as tanks. So let's take a look from your point of view of what it actually looks like to be doing a good job. So right off the bat, you're here with your supports, that's fine. But then you get into this position, and this is a really good position to be in right now, because this is Diva's effective range. This sort of 10 to 15 yards where she does the most amount of damage. And yeah, just take a look at this. You're zoning the Pharah out from taking the skies. As soon as you start getting low on your health, you realize that, and you get out. You use your defensive cooldowns to get out. This is really good. Unfortunately, you actually don't get healed up for a large portion of this, which makes it difficult for you to do much. So, but then as soon as you get healthy again, you come back into this position, and you start helping with the high ground fight. This is really good play. Again, look how much damage you just did to that Reinhardt in such a small amount of time. When you play within D.Va's effective range, you melt him, right? So this is really good. And then again, you come up for that high ground and you actually get the McCree. That's a stellar job. You end up coming all the way around. Oh no, what am I doing here? When you could have just come right here. And at this point, you could be doing a ton of damage. And the good thing about mobility heroes is that you can attack from all sides, right? So you're just kind of getting to know D.Va a bit more and knowing like how many angles can you make the team. You know, if the team has to look at 3 different places at once, then it makes them uncoordinated and it only works in your favor. Right? So this would have been a great place to go. But a really good thing about your play, if we just rewind it back a little bit, is the second you get hooked, your defense matrix come out, and because you took damage, you immediately use your cooldown to get back, and you get healed back up. This is good. So yeah, when we're playing well, it makes the team very, or it makes the attacking team use resources just to get towards the cart. So even here, resetting back up to the high ground, you can see everything. You've got a good sense of information. You can be relaying that to your team. Hey guys, they're going up the stairs. All this stuff sort of happens, right? This is a really good place for you to be in. D.Va's about to use her cooldown to get up. You use your cooldown and you bump her off. This is fantastic. Like the enemy team has no high ground control here. And then from this position you can send in your bomb and get a kill. This is really good play. And they ended up pushing it pretty far, but that's actually because of mistakes on my part as Monkey. I overstepped my boundaries a little bit, and that's inevitably what made them cap this point. But again, our soldier has taken hardly any damage this entire time, and he's just been doing so much work. Same with our Ashe. So this is essentially what making space means, and we can take a little look at my POV. So another thing as tanks is we want to be the one to contest the objective, right? So a couple things I just want to say before we watch this is I never go into a position that is dangerous without my jump being off cooldown. So I drop onto cart. I'm using natural cover, which is something you do really great, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But as soon as I start to take too much heat, like right now, I take a lot of damage and I'm out. My jump is off cooldown again, I'm back on cart. And I'm holding the cart here so our soldier can have this alleyway to shoot at. Again, I take a lot of heat and I'm out. Right? So I'm cycling back and forth. So this is This is essentially making and holding space as a tank, right? So I just want to go into the training range just to show you kind of a little bit more of what D.Va's effective range is. So that 10 to 15 meters is about here, right? So this is a full 200 HP training bot, and we can count. It's going to go down in 2 seconds. 1, 2. It's dead, right? Just 10 more meters back. Now we're at 20 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7.5 seconds for that training bot to die, right? And that's just a difference of 10 meters. So holding the high ground here is really good, right? And that's what we were doing on Dorado. Now we're going to be taking a look at Volskaya. Nope, that's Dorado again. My bad. Volskaya Industries. So this is one that we lost. I'm not going to go over the first point because the first point, it was actually more on our gameplay than anything. Or, sorry, our game plan. Our game plan wasn't correct, and that's kind of what gave them the point. But right here is something you do very well, and this is something that I've seen golds and platinum players even struggle to do and get in a good habit of, is you use natural cover really well. Your tendencies to naturally go towards a wall or naturally go towards a corner is really good. So right here you got demeched and you're using this corner perfectly. And this is essentially what allows you to survive and regain your mech. This play right here, when you're out of mech, is actually really good. It might just look like you're getting your mech back, but the fundamentals of what you've just done makes me believe that you have a ton of potential to grow, just because you have this already as a habit. The way you swing from away from the wall is what essentially high-level Counter-Strike and Valorant players do. And then the enemy team starts coming back, you stick towards the wall, and you're still firing. This is really good. And you do this when you're in mech as well. But sometimes you're just a little bit far out of effective range, which is what we are going to be looking at over here at second point. So if we move up to this camera angle right here, enemy team is just capped first point and they're heading over. This right here is the choke point. So this, anything behind this is the defender's territory. Anything after this is the attacker's territory, essentially. So as tanks, we want to be making it as expensive for the enemy team to get through that choke as possible. By expensive, I mean they need to be using their... It's going to cost them their cooldowns, it's going to cost them their health pool, it's going to cost them their shield resources. They're going to need to use all of this just to get through the choke point. And that's what our jobs as tanks are to do. We're essentially the bouncers when it comes to playing 2CP. So from this position, you can see that your monkey is here. He's trying to play bouncer to these two players. And it actually kind of works. Both enemies drop. But because he's solo, they ended up coming back up top and taking this high ground. And as soon as they take this high ground, you can see that the attackers start to gain more territory. And once they start getting more territory, they start creating more space. And you saw what our soldier did with the amount of space that we gave him on Dorado, right? So if we just rewind it a little bit and take a look at your POV, what we're going to see is you're going to be playing back here on point. And remember that any of this damage here that you're putting out towards the choke point from back here, remember how far we were? We were only 20 meters away from that training dummy, and it took 7 seconds for it to go down. So playing at this kind of 40 meter, 50 meter range is any damage you do is negligible. Like, the healers are going to heal it up. It's going to be worth absolutely nothing. You're not going to get ult charge from it. It's essentially useless. But fighting up here with your monkey, all of a sudden you're way more in range. You're within this 10 to 15 yard range, and you're forcing the Sigma, like, you're blocking the Sigma from getting through, which means the Junkrat can't get through, and it makes it harder for the enemy team to cross this choke point. So we end up actually holding this. Yeah, just right here. As soon as we lose that high ground fight, you can see now how the enemy team, this used to be our territory, and now this is our territory. It's literally been cut in half. And it means that the supports, the DPS can all get through the choke points. The tanks are here. They're able to get healed up. They're talking about it. They're saying, okay, let's go 3, 2, 1 now. And then they engage from there, and we're on the back foot. So that's essentially what it means. Or that's how important it is to be the bouncers on a 2CP map and hold choke points. The visor comes out and you immediately DM, which is great. So now that that attack is over, tanks want to reset along the choke point. So you can see your monkey is kind of moving forward. So he's trying to get any kind of information that he can. Okay, they've got a Zenyatta over there. Are they coming this way? And he's going to be playing more up here. But again, let's take a look. You're playing way back here. And you're supposed to be the bouncer at the door, right? So this fight still goes in our favor, because as soon as Monkey goes in, you follow up. But we should get into the habit of being there before. We want to be setting up, like in this phase here where we're just kind of walking back and forth on the point. It means we get no information from this angle. There's nothing here that benefits us. But if we're here and we're playing around this thing on the high ground, we can see if the enemy team wants to come here. We can see which way they're coming from spawn. If they want to come through the choke, we're right here. This gives us a lot of options. And just by holding this ground and holding this space, this is the space that we want to be holding, it means that the enemy team is on the back foot. They either have to take it from us, or they have to deal with your shotguns in point blank range. So going back to your point of view, you come in, and this is what happens when you're in that perfect position. So you're holding the high ground here, and you're in the effective range. That Sigma gets melted. Transcendence comes out. This was well defended. That was really good. This was really good play, right? Monkey gets a little bit greedy and eventually goes down for it, as well as the McCree. But then again, your tendency to come way back here gives us nothing, right? Whereas if you were set up here on this high ground, then you can see the enemy team, and especially you can see this Junkrat. And if you're here, then you can see the Junkrat go on this flank. You can give us this kind of information, and you can make it harder for the enemy team, because the enemy team just ends up walking in. Your main tank was down at the beginning for setup phase, but with the respawns being so close, you can see that he's already back. But the enemy team just walks through this choke point for free, and that's something that we don't want to be doing as a tank. And because we didn't have that information about the Junkrat, he gets play of the game off of it, and they get 3 or 2.5 ticks off of this one push. So, I'm just gonna fast forward it a little bit because we ended up defending. So right, 2.5 ticks, just because we didn't know that the Junkrat came around the back, and that could have been easily known had you been up here, or had a tank been here. I mean, there is something to say that I made the greedy play to kill the Ana, and I traded my life for it, so I wasn't here to get that information as well. But yeah, that was a mistake on my part. But at the same time, you could have filled that role. Yeah, so let's actually take a look at my positioning here. So again, you are the farthest person back, right? This is kind of where you'd like to naturally reset to when we want to be up here. So as Monkey, I'm trying to play Bouncer at the door, and I reset to this high ground because this I can see all the information. Slow it down just a little bit. So as soon as we get to the choke point, the other side is their territory. I don't want to be in it. So from up here, what can I see? I can see the ball go in. I can see that half their team is here. That ball went into 5 of us, it's not really something I care about. I care about more about the choke, right? So as soon as they start getting towards the choke, I'm here, and I'm just trying to play bouncer. And from this position, I can see everything, right? I can see where their team is. I can see if they have any threats. They can't easily shoot me. And this is how I'm trying to play bouncer. But again, this kind of range is not where D.Va excels at. So your natural defensive position to like go back is very reactive. And if you remember in our comms, when we were making the aggressive plays, that's when we really shined, right? So you want to put yourself in a position where you can be making those aggressive plays. Because playing this far back, you have to use your mobility cooldown to get close to them. So again, all this fighting has been going on up by the choke point, and we're still sitting back on the point. So hopefully you've seen a couple examples of how, you know, when you were up here by the choke point using the high ground in close range, you melt people as D.Va, which is really good. But then as soon as the enemy team can get through the choke point, all of a sudden it's a different story. And as a tank, you want to be the one to hold this space. You want to make it expensive for them to get through this choke point. You want to be using your mobility cooldowns to get away rather than pouncing onto somebody, right? Playing aggressive tanks like Winston and D.Va, their mobility cooldowns go both ways. It can be aggressive or defensive, right? As we saw on Dorado when we were playing really well. Yeah, so hopefully that that helps a little bit. You can kind of see where you want to be setting up. And there's no set positions, right? That high ground on Volskaya is a good place to be, but it's not the only place to be. Anywhere where you can deny the enemy team the opportunity to get free space is always going to be worth it. Something that I do want to show just before I leave is in the Toronto Overwatch Academy Discord and Recreation Barracks, there's a YouTube video here for CarQ, and he essentially,
when you think of Overwatch mechanic,
goes over and puts a video that helps out with D.Va training. So I'd highly recommend watching this video. It's going to help with your D.Va bomb placements. And try it out. Yeah. Other than that, just keep practicing, and yeah, have a good one.